Good morning, everybody. This is Jack Gleason with Startuptrading.com. It is Wednesday, July 15th, 2020. For our economic news events, last night we had the Bank of Japan Outlook report, the monetary policy statement. We also had CPI out of the Great Britain pound, the Bank of Japan press conference at 2:30, which really got the yen moving. All day we're going to have OPEC meetings, and then we're going to at 9:15 have industrial production for the U.S. markets. At 10 a.m., the Bank of Canada monetary policy report and the Bank of Canada rate statement, as well as the overnight rate, will be released. 10:30 crude oil inventories and the Bank of Canada press conference at 11 o'clock. This evening, we have CPI for the New Zealand dollar, and at 9:30, the unemployment rate for the Australian markets, GDP for the Chinese markets at 10 o'clock, which will probably be a mover. And then tomorrow morning, main refinancing rate and the monetary policy statement, ECB press conference, and core retail sales for the U.S. market. So ECB news, Aussie dollar red star event, Canadian dollar red star event. Last night we had the JPY red star event. So these 2 days, so yesterday, today, and following up into tomorrow, are really going to be our biggest news events for the week. So just keep that in mind. And we will move on to our analysis. I just want to make sure that everything's working. All right, I've titled this video, "The Dow is breaking out like a beast," and I just want to go over this higher time frame setup. The Dow has finally started moving here, and I've been mentioning this in the last two morning trade plan videos, but basically we've broken out of this wedge and we are just soaring. I don't really think we're going to stop here today until we get to 27,180. So that's another 140 points above. I'm hoping we pull back before we get to those levels, but we'll go over the setups that we're looking at. Now, also just on the higher time frame, guys, the Dow's target based on the pullback on June 15th is all the way up at 29,000, but the Dow and the Russell are really playing catch up here. So I've actually swapped out in this morning trade plan video, I've swapped out the NQ for the Russell, and I will go ahead and start off with the Dow. We're going to move down to the hourly time frame. We came into and we're opening right at this 50% retracement long, which was in yesterday's morning trade plan video. That was at 25,909. Now, we hovered above that level for like 12 hours or even longer than that. At 9 o'clock, right off the open, we traded into our support and we soared to our profit target in the overnight session. It was incredibly powerful completion of 900-point completion, and we've gone through those profit targets. Now that we're through those profit targets, we're going to have an extension from what is Monday's high to high. Now, there is the 38% retracement, which is 26,855. That 38% retracement lines up with the halfway back long for the day as of right now. So that is ideally like the perfect area I'd like to get long the Dow, and I don't see us stopping, as I mentioned, until we get up to 27,190 level. So that is what I'm looking for here in the Dow, and I really hope that we get this set up here today. So that's what I'm looking for. Moving on to the S&P 500, I have a little bit of a more conservative setup that I'm looking for. We did come into, and this was a really interesting price pattern yesterday. It was the total, you could call it the FU, or the, we trade below the low and then we rip higher. You can see there was a massive divergence between the way the Dow was trading. We barely dipped through that low, and the S&P 500, which completed what was in the overnight session an extension short. And then the same anchor new low didn't hold, and we began our rally. So the upside target based on the 31.33 support level from yesterday is all the way up at 32.70. 32.70 is our higher time frame upside profit target, and we are getting even closer to a new all-time high. Now, coming out of what was the low of yesterday, there was a 50% retracement that was aggressively front run, and we totally blew through that negative 23% profit target, as well as the negative 61. In the overnight session, we had an extension sequence that began from 31.76 to high, and that has completed its profit target. So I'm going to continue to use that extension. We have that same anchor new high, as well as there is going to be an anchor from 31.66 quarter. And what I'm going to do is just kind of look at this zone here. So we'll have the most aggressive bid would be the 32.11 half, and then the lowest support level I would have would be all the way down in the overnight lows. So 32.11.5 to 31.99.75. I know that's a pretty big range, but all of that is just two different variations of an extension, and we're in an extremely powerful bullish setup here for the ES. Moving on to the Russell, okay, which is, let me go to a daily chart as well. This is also a market that needs to play catch up, right? So we are inside of this wedge. If you look at the Russell, if you look at the S&P, they look totally different, especially when you compare them to the Nasdaq. But we're right at the top side of this trend line. This is the third touch of this trend line, so I do expect a little bit of a pullback here this morning, and I want to do some analysis on yesterday's beginning of the move. So there was the low of the day in the Russell to high that traded a halfway back that blew into an extension. That extension is completed. It's negative 61 here. The most aggressive move would be the extension to extension, but because we are just above that, just above what is the trend line, I'm not really interested in buying the most aggressive move. I'm going to go back to the conservative anchor at 14.18 to high, and that 38% retracement is going to line up with the previous high of the week. That is a 14.50 half. That is where I'm going to be looking for the RTY to trade into today for a potential long setup, which leads us up into a 14.83 target. So it's a 33-point target, which is a pretty significant profit target. Moving on to oil, I guess we just broke down out of a wedge. I am expecting us to come into what is the 40.03. Now we have the oil inventory report. We've come right to the top side of the range. We have the oil inventory report, and as I mentioned in the morning, we have the OPEC meetings all day long as well. So we have rallied pretty significantly from Tuesday's low. So this will be a halfway back long for the week. It's a 40.03, and we continue to be inside of this range. 41 is the top side of the range, and 38 half, 39 is really that bottom side of the range. If we can hold this 40.03, that should lead us up and through the 41 level. So we'll see if we can get this quick pullback here at that 40.03. That would be an ideal setup moving into the morning for CL. USDJPY, economic news, JPY press conference at 2:30, we really started cracking. Now, the JPY has multiple targets here to the downside, and there's a lot of technical markets here today, so that's why you really want to pick up the higher time frame support and resistance levels. Pick the ones with the larger targets. Now, we have the 50% retracement short that traded on the 30th of June. We have the 50% retracement short that traded on the 14th of July. And we also have a 50% retracement short that traded on the 8th of June. These are all large daily downside targets. And with that ECB press conference coming out and the subsequent reaction to the downside, we have some very aggressive selling pressure. Going into that ECB press conference, we spent about 8-10 hours consolidating inside of a 50% retracement short that totally blew through our profit targets. Now that we've completed those extensions, we have a same anchor new low, and these are very technical markets. Downside targets here, guys, much lower. If we can get through Friday's low of last week, 106.27 is going to be that first profit target, and then we got targets down at 105.77 and targets down at 105.17. But take a look at this daily. If we come and continue into the momentum through the downside, the USDJPY should really just start losing it here. So this is a market that's has high participation and is very technical right now. We have a same anchor new low, which gives us a 38% retracement at the 106.89. 106.89. Moving on to the Aussie dollar. The Aussie dollar traded out of what is a pretty significant front run. We had this front run of this halfway back long, and the level was a 69.16. Now, we were initially front run on Tuesday, the 7th of July, by what is that, 6 pips, something like that? No, 5 pips. And then we were front run again by 7, and then we were front run by 4. So every time we came in as halfway back long, there was very aggressive buyers. Now, we began our rally yesterday, and that has blown through its profit targets. There's an extension from 69.63, but we're kind of mid-range here. The only thing I'd be interested in is a retest of the 69.90. We haven't quite hit our profit targets, or if that does not hold, the full 50% retracement from the low of the week is a valid setup, and that's a 69.72. Euro blowing out of daily profit targets. So we had a halfway back trade on Friday of last week, and it was perfect reaction. We got through that negative 23% profit target at the 113.86 last night. We then traded an extension from what is the high of 113.44 to high. We traded off the 38. We've completed targets. We're running into a daily leg start here. The same anchor new high, the 50% retracement, brings us back to 113.95. Once again, very technical markets here today. GBPUSD hasn't completed this extension target, so we have so many good setups. Unless we complete this extension target, I'm not interested in the trade. If we complete it, I'll go over it in the trade room. USDCAD has just run into an extension. Now, the USDCAD is going to be a potential mover here today with what is the Canadian dollar refinancing rate, etc., etc. The halfway back from what was Thursday's low to high initially traded on Monday. Now it broke, and now we've retested, and that is basically the low. If we hold this extension, we're going to continue through and trade the 135.40s here today. But the USDCAD, with everything that's going on, going to be very important to watch. Actually, I'm going to take a look at something real quick. 135. Okay. Sorry, I am no. All right, guys. I was just putting on my position real quick. So we're gonna move on to gold. The 50% retracement in gold, I don't really trust here. We are run into the top side of the range. If we come into the 1800 level, I think that could be support, but I'm gonna probably be staying away from gold today. Silver is a different story. We have a 50% retracement from Tuesday's low to high at 1952, and that would be the support level we could anticipate to trade. Now, we have come off of it. We're still running into, this is the high of 2019, this 1975. So if we come into this support level, if we come into the support level at 1952, we could get a rotation out of it. But that's what I have here. I just wanted to highlight all of these levels. Everything I highlighted is going to be, these are really technical markets, and it's really important to pay attention to what they do. But I will share all of these levels with everyone in my trade room. If you enjoyed this content, guys, please do me a favor every morning you watch this video, because I know a lot of you guys do. Give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the chat room. Everybody take care and have a great day. What they do, but I will share all of these levels with everyone in my trade room. If you enjoy this content, guys, please do me a favor every morning you watch this video, because I know a lot of you guys do. Give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the chat room. Everybody take care and have a great day.